A beautiful and pure lesbian love story between two sisters from a 1994 film inspired by a shocking true story. This is a forbidden love that defied every rule, and it might just be the most unique lesbian love movie you'll ever watch.
What did you mean when you said this was beautiful?
Set in 1930s France, the film explores class, control, repression, and most importantly, the intense taboo love between two sisters working as maids. It's a story of isolation, desire, and a relationship that slowly spirals into obsession and tragedy. But what makes this story even more disturbing is that it wasn't created entirely from imagination. The movie was inspired by the real-life story of the Papin sisters, two sisters whose shocking crime would become one of the most infamous murder cases in French history. And in this film, we get to see how two sisters, living in a world that gives them almost no freedom, slowly become each other's entire world. Their love begins in secret, behind the closed doors of a strict household. But eventually, everything they have been hiding will lead them toward a shocking and unforgettable tragedy. So let's go back to where their sisterly love began. And if you enjoy watching intense and emotional lesbian stories, don't forget to subscribe, or even join the channel to show your love and support. The story begins inside a cold and rigid household run by Madame Danzard, a wealthy woman who lives with her adult daughter, Isabelle. The house is extremely strict, and Madame expects everything to be done exactly the way she wants. Into this environment arrives Christine, the older of the two sisters. Christine is quiet, disciplined, and experienced enough to understand how to survive in a household like this. She's hired as a maid, and from the moment she begins working there, she understands that her life will revolve around serving the Danzard family. But Christine doesn't want to face this life alone. Soon, she convinces Madame Danzard to hire her younger sister, Léa. And when Léa arrives, the two sisters finally have each other again. They begin working side by side, cooking, cleaning, scrubbing floors, taking care of the house. Every day is almost exactly the same, but there is one major difference now. They are together. The Danzards don't treat them as equals. To Madame and Isabelle, Christine and Léa are simply servants who are expected to work, remain quiet, and follow order. They have very little freedom and almost no connection to the outside world. The sisters are expected to keep their heads down and do their job, but behind the closed doors of their small attic room, everything changes. Away from Madame's eyes, Christine and Léa can finally be themselves, and their relationship is far more intense than an ordinary sisterly bond. Léa is especially dependent on Christine. She looks up to her older sister, trusts her, and feels safest when she's with her. Christine, on the other hand, becomes protective of Léa, but that protection slowly becomes something more complicated. The more isolated they become, the more they begin depending on each other for everything. There is almost nobody else in their lives, so Christine becomes Léa's entire world, and Léa becomes Christine's only source of comfort. The film gradually shows their relationship crossing boundaries and becoming an intense secret love. But their relationship isn't presented as a simple fairy tale. It's complicated by loneliness, repression, fear, and their complete dependence on one another. During the day, they are expected to behave like perfect servants. They work without complaint, they follow orders, and they say almost nothing. But every Sunday after 4 in the afternoon, they are given a few hours away from the house, and those moments become incredibly important to them. For a few hours, there are no rules, no madame, no orders, no one watching them. It's just Christine and Léa together. Those small moments of freedom allow them to forget about the life waiting for them back home. But once they return, reality comes rushing back. The strict household, the endless work, the criticism, and the feeling that they don't belong anywhere except with each other. Then one day, a letter arrives from their mother. Léa is immediately emotional. She wants to visit her mother. She wants to believe that perhaps things can finally become better. But Christine doesn't agree. She believes their mother only contacts them when she needs money. To Christine, this isn't a loving reunion. It's another reminder of the painful life they left behind, and she refuses to let Léa go back. Once again, Christine tries to protect her sister by keeping the outside world away. But instead of making things better, their isolation becomes even stronger. The sisters retreat deeper into their own little world. At night, when everyone else is asleep, their attic room becomes their only escape.
And Léa continues to look at Christine as the one person who can protect her from everything outside. Their relationship becomes their refuge. But the same thing that gives them comfort also makes them increasingly dependent on each other. And outside their room, the pressure continues building. Every insult, every order, every humiliation, every reminder that they are nothing more than servants. It all begins piling up. Until one day, the Danzers return home from a trip. The house feels strangely cold and dark. The electricity is out, and the silence makes everything feel even more unsettling. Christine tries to keep working normally, but something inside her has already begun to change. Years of being controlled, watched, criticized, and humiliated are starting to surface. Upstairs, Léa can sense that something isn't right. Then Madame begins complaining again. The dinner isn't good enough. Something has been done incorrectly. Another small mistake becomes another reason to shout at the sisters. Isabel joins her mother, and once again, Christine and Léa are reminded of their position, but this time, something feels different. Later, Madame and Isabel call the sisters into their room to confront them about a small problem inside the house. What begins as another argument quickly becomes much more intense. Christine is insulted, she's humiliated, and Léa watches everything happen. For years, Christine has swallowed her anger, but now she reaches her breaking point. Something snaps. Christine leaves the room. She doesn't argue, she doesn't scream, she simply walks away. Her footsteps move slowly through the dark house, and when she returns, she is carrying a heavy flat iron. The room is barely illuminated. Everyone is caught in the tension of the moment. And then Christine attacks. The violence comes suddenly. What follows is the most horrifying sequence of the entire movie. Madame and Isabel are attacked, and Léa eventually becomes involved as well. The two sisters who spent the entire story protecting and depending on each other are now united in something completely different. Rage. The violence feels like the final explosion of everything they have been carrying inside for years. The humiliation, the fear, the resentment, the helplessness, and the anger they could never express. And then, everything becomes silent. But what happens afterward is almost as disturbing. Christine and Léa don't immediately run away. They don't seem to understand, or perhaps don't want to face the reality of what has just happened. Instead, they return to their room, the same tiny attic where they once found comfort in each other, and they lie down together, side by side. The world outside has completely changed. But inside that room, they are still together. The movie then leaves us with the tragic reality of their story. This wasn't simply a story about a crime, and that is what makes the story of Sister My Sister so unforgettable. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and if you want to support my work even more, you can also join the channel. Until next time, take care. Bye-bye.